The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Empire buzzed with murmurs as Zartul, the veteran of countless wars, stood before the assembly. His leathery skin bore scars that spoke of battles waged on distant worlds, and his eyes held a grim determination as he addressed the gathered alien leaders. The chamber's walls gleamed with crystalline light, an imposing reminder of the Empire's dominion over countless civilizations. Yet, Zartul's voice trembled not with fear but with urgency. "I have fought many wars for this empire," he began, his deep voice reverberating through the chamber. "I have seen enemies fall before our might, their worlds crushed beneath our fleets. But there is one enemy unlike any other. One we dared to provoke without understanding. I speak of the humans of Earth." A ripple of dismissive laughter echoed across the chamber. High Chancellor Vorath, a towering figure adorned with ornate ceremonial armor, leaned forward, his many eyes glinting with amusement. "Humans? Those primitive creatures confined to a single planet? Surely you jest, Zartul." Zartul's gaze did not waver. "I wish I were jesting, Chancellor. But I speak from first-hand experience. When our reconnaissance forces landed on Earth, we underestimated them, just as you are doing now. Their technology was crude compared to ours, their cities vulnerable, and their people unprepared, or so we thought. But their soldiers are unlike any I have ever faced." The murmurs ceased, replaced by a tense silence. Zartul recounted his experience, each word heavy with the weight of memory. "Our forces were superior in every way: strength, speed, firepower. Yet, they found ways to exploit our weaknesses. They do not fight as we do. They are chaotic, unpredictable. Where we rely on calculated strategy, they adapt with startling ingenuity. Where we expect surrender, they respond with defiance." He paused, his clawed hands trembling slightly. "They are masters of their environment. They turn their forests into traps, their cities into fortresses. Their soldiers do not fight for glory or conquest, but for survival and for each other. That bond gives them a strength I cannot explain. I saw entire battalions wiped out by humans who refused to yield. Even when outnumbered, they fought with a ferocity that should have been impossible." Another counselor, sleek and serpentine, hissed in derision. "Perhaps your fear clouded your judgment. No species can stand against the might of the Galactic Empire." Zartul's voice rose, cutting through the scorn. "It is not fear that speaks but experience. You dismiss them because their technology is primitive, because they lack interstellar reach. But they are not bound by the same rules as we are. They are driven by desperation and an indomitable will to survive. That is their greatest weapon." Vorath waved a dismissive hand. "Enough. Your warnings are noted, Zartul, but we will not cower before a fledgling species." Zartul's final words echoed in the chamber as he turned to leave. "You think them weak because you do not understand them. But mark my words, if you provoke Earth, you will not face mere soldiers. You will face a storm unlike any you have ever known." The transmission was brief but chilling. An alien fleet, vast and incomprehensibly powerful, was en route to Earth. Across every major nation, alarms sounded, and leaders convened in emergency sessions. The message was clear: Earth had little time to prepare. Yet, instead of panic, a resolve settled over humanity. This was not the first time Earth had faced annihilation, and it would not be the last. Military leaders acted swiftly, pooling their resources and knowledge. Rivalries and borders became irrelevant. The armies of the world, often divided by politics and ideology, now stood united. Generals and strategists gathered in underground bunkers, poring over intercepted data, studying the enemy's movements and technology. There was no time to waste, and Earth's best minds were determined to turn their vulnerability into an advantage. "We cannot match their firepower," one strategist stated plainly, "but we can exploit their overconfidence." Scientists and engineers worked day and night, analyzing the weaknesses in the alien fleet's technology. They discovered that the enemy relied heavily on centralized communication networks and energy shields that, while impenetrable to direct attacks, were vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. Factories across the globe were repurposed to produce EMP devices, jammers, and weaponry tailored to disrupt the alien systems. At the same time, Earth soldiers underwent intensive training. Simulated alien combat scenarios pushed them to their limits, preparing them for the unimaginable. Commanders emphasized adaptability, encouraging their troops to think creatively and act independently when the situation demanded. Guerrilla tactics were refined, drawing from centuries of warfare. The strategy was clear: fight the enemy where they least expected, using Earth's terrain and unpredictability as the ultimate weapons. Civilians, too, were prepared. Massive drills ensured that every city could respond quickly to an attack. Underground shelters were fortified, and supplies were stockpiled. Volunteers from every corner of the globe stepped forward, determined to play their part. Farmers converted fields into training grounds, engineers devised improvised weapons, and communities came together, driven by a shared determination to protect their home. Despite the grim circumstances, there was no despair, only defiance. Soldiers prepared their gear with steady hands, their faces set with grim determination. Conversations in mess halls buzzed with a mix of humor and resolve. "Let them come," one soldier remarked. "We'll show them what Earth is made of." As the days passed, Earth's leaders broadcast messages of unity and hope. The world watched as generals stood shoulder to shoulder, declaring that humanity would not bow to invaders. "We may not have their technology," one general stated, "but we have something far more powerful. We have our minds, our hearts, and our will to survive." When the alien fleet finally entered the solar system, Earth was ready. The planet's surface was a fortress, its people a force united by a singular purpose: survival. Though the odds were stacked against them, humanity had one advantage the aliens could not comprehend: its ability to adapt, to resist, and to rise stronger in the face of impossible odds. The alien fleet arrived with a terrifying display of power. Massive ships, each the size of a city, descended through Earth's atmosphere, blotting out the sun. Their landing was precise, calculated, and methodical. Alien troops poured out in coordinated waves, their armor glinting with an otherworldly sheen, their weapons far beyond anything Earth's forces could match. The Galactic Empire believed this would be a swift and overwhelming conquest, a mere formality in their endless expansion. But the humans were ready. The first wave of attacks struck as the aliens began their advance. Deep in the forests, small human strike teams launched ambushes, targeting the alien soldiers with pinpoint precision. While the Empire's troops relied on centralized orders, Earth's forces operated independently, exploiting the chaos. Snipers hidden in treetops picked off alien commanders, and improvised explosives disrupted supply lines. The forests became a maze of traps, every step a potential disaster for the invading forces. In the cities, the battle was no less fierce. The Empire's towering machines lumbered through urban centers, their energy shields deflecting conventional weapons. But Earth's defenders adapted quickly. Small units maneuvered through narrow alleyways and collapsed buildings, striking at weak points with EMP devices. When the shields failed, the machines became vulnerable to everything, from heavy artillery to homemade incendiary weapons. The aliens, accustomed to dominance, began to falter. Their tactics, designed for overwhelming technologically inferior foes, were ill-suited to Earth's style of warfare. Human ingenuity turned the invaders' strengths into weaknesses. Engineers hacked into alien communication systems, feeding false information and redirecting troops into ambushes. Soldiers lured alien battalions into bottlenecks where artillery and airstrikes awaited them. Even civilians played a role, using drones and improvised weaponry to harass and confuse the enemy. The psychological toll on the aliens grew with each skirmish. Human soldiers displayed a level of ferocity and adaptability the invaders could not understand. They fought not for conquest but for survival, for their families, and for the very ground beneath their feet. Alien commanders, bred for calculated strategy, were overwhelmed by the unpredictability of human tactics. One decisive moment came during a nighttime assault on a major alien command center. Using their knowledge of the terrain, a team of elite human soldiers infiltrated the heavily guarded facility. They moved like shadows, disabling security systems and planting charges in key locations. When the explosives detonated, the command center was reduced to rubble, severing communication lines and throwing the alien forces into disarray. As dawn broke, the Empire's troops found themselves increasingly on the defensive. Their once imposing presence now seemed fragile, their forces stretched thin and their morale crumbling. The humans pressed their advantage, their resolve growing with every victory. The invaders had underestimated the strength of a united Earth, and now they were paying the price. The Galactic Empire, for all its technological superiority, had failed to account for the most powerful force in the galaxy: the human will to fight, to adapt, and to survive. The tide of the battle had turned, and the invaders were beginning to realize that this war would not end as they had planned. The retreat was unthinkable. The Galactic Empire, a force that had crushed countless civilizations and expanded across the stars, was now fleeing in disarray. Their fleets, once symbols of invincibility, were retreating to orbit, abandoning the ground forces they had so arrogantly deployed. What began as a calculated invasion had devolved into chaos, with commanders scrambling to extract what remained of their battered troops. On Earth, the humans stood victorious. Soldiers, engineers, and civilians alike emerged from the ruins, weary but triumphant. The fields where alien machines once marched were now graveyards of twisted metal. The skies, once filled with the oppressive hum of enemy ships, were quiet except for the cheers of humanity's defenders. It was a victory not just of arms but of spirit. Earth had proven that it would not bow, no matter the odds. Back in the Galactic Empire's council chamber, the mood was somber. The leaders who had mocked Zartol's warnings now sat in silence, their pride and arrogance shattered. Reports flooded in from the retreating fleet, stories of human ingenuity, tenacity, and their terrifying refusal to give up even in the face of overwhelming force. Zartol, standing quietly at the edge of the chamber, observed their expressions. "Do you see now?" he finally said, breaking the silence. His voice carried no gloating, only a quiet satisfaction. "I told you they would not fight as you expected. Earth's strength is not in its technology or its weapons, it is in its people. You underestimated their resilience, their adaptability, their unity." The High Chancellor, who had once dismissed Zartol with a wave of his hand, now nodded slowly. "We were wrong," he admitted, the words bitter on his tongue. "The humans are formidable. They have proven themselves far beyond our expectations." As the Council debated their next steps, Earth delivered its own message. A small shuttle, piloted by humans, arrived under a white flag. The Galactic Empire, still reeling from its defeat, allowed the envoy to land. The message was simple but profound. "We do not seek war," the human representative declared. "But if you bring it to us again, we will defend ourselves with everything we have. Respect us, and we will respect you. Threaten us, and you will face the same fate as your fleet." The council listened, humbled and uncertain. Zartol, observing the humans' boldness, could not help but feel a measure of admiration. These were not the primitives the Empire had dismissed, but a species with a unique fire, one that could not be extinguished. When the human envoy departed, the High Chancellor turned to Zartol. "What would you have us do?" Zartol's answer was resolute. "Leave them be. Earth is not a world to be conquered. It is a world to be respected, perhaps even feared. They have earned their place in the galaxy." As the Council reluctantly agreed to a truce, Zartol found himself reflecting on humanity's victory. It was not their weapons, their numbers, or even their strategies that had won the day, it was their spirit. A force as unpredictable as it was unstoppable. A force that the Empire, for all its might, could never hope to match.